You are listening to Quarters and Barra. I am Glenn Quartermain, senior sports writer with the West Australian. With me is Adrian Barrich of Channel 7 Perth Football Club and West Coast Eagles fame. We are brought to you by TabTouch. Got the touch? Download the TabTouch app today. Chances are you're about to lose. For free and confidential support, visit gamblinghelponline.org.au. Barra, I'm a little under the weather. Just got back from the kite in the early hours of this morning from Melbourne and... bit of a head cold.
Caught in a traffic jam.
Caught in a traffic jam.
Tunnel.
Yeah, today. It's been a hard start to the day.
Mate, what was Melbourne like? Give us
Beautiful. I love my hometown. Very, very cold though. I haven't experienced cold like that for some time. Walking around Marvel Stadium on the Friday, trying to spy on the Eagles barrack because they had a closed session, but there's some parts of Marvel you can see pretty much everything. So it was freezing. I had to do about 12 laps of Marvel just to stay warm because it's a bit of a wind tunnel. Arctic wind, mate, I tell you.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, terrible, mate. Did you burn the candle at both ends?
Oh, I did. I caught up with all my mates. That's part of the reason I'm a bit run down. Caught up with my besties over there and we had a couple of nights out. So.
Now, please tell me that you got to the great Hawthorn Collingwood game, one of the great games, the Ginnivan show. Oh, mate, how good was it? Photo taking, put Collingwood to sleep. You must have been in your element, eh? Sitting there watching that.
Well, technically I got there, Barra, technically. So all my mates were there because
does that mean,
half a Hawthorn, half a Collingwood, right? So, it back-ended the West Coast and Kilda game, which I covered for the West Australian and the Sunday Times. So by the time that game finished, you do your aftermatch, you talk to the coach, you talk to a player, you get it written, you get it in the paper.
No, don't tell me.
Yeah, well, I've got.
What time did you get there?
About 20 minutes walk to the hotel. And it's pouring rain, so I walk to the hotel, get my computer in the hotel, so that's safe. Get onto a tram. There was a delay with the tram.
What?
Yeah, the delay with the tram. Get up to MCG.
So we're talking. Okay, that's half time.
I'm walking. I get off the tram at just near Rod Laver Arena. No, and there's all these Collingwood supporters walking towards me. They're leaving. Which cheered me up. Then I got in with 10 minutes to go.
Oh, my
So I did
God.
hear the siren sound and I, caught up with my mates. I walked in and all my Collingwood mates were there and I said, hey, fellas.
The party's arrived.
No, I said, I've been working, so I've got no idea about the score. Clearly it's close. What's happening? And they just looked at me and they said, you can bugger off.
And there's still 11th Hawthorn too. That's
11th.
a weird bit, but geez, it was good, mate. Actually, it was bloody good watching it too. And I was with Dane Swan this weekend. Actually, big shout out to the Mandurah Mustangs.
Good on you,
the
Mandurah
Mandurah Mustangs. I went down there with Dane Swan. Dane Swan was in town. What a classic bloke he is. Actually, some Eagles bloke chipped me. He goes, oh, yeah, I listened to the podcast. Geez, you talk a lot about the Dockers, don't you?
There you go.
I said,
there
what?
you go.
He was having a crack at me. Can you talk a bit more about the Eagles? I said, well, it's not a lot to talk about. I mean, the Simpson thing was quite big, but now going forward, it's tricky. We've got a derby this week. Might get a few mentions.
Let's talk, before we get on to a few other things, let's firstly talk about, I'll ask the question, Barra. Who wants to coach the West Coast Eagles? Will you please put your hand up?
Like, I don't know. This is just normal process, isn't it?
I suppose so. Well, Dean Cox is withdrawn.
There's still a heap of people out
If
there.
he was ever in the race, Dean Cox is out. Josh Carr said, I'm staying in Adelaide.
So back to Coxie. So Coxie's got a Hungry Jack's in Sydney, right? And his wife, beautiful. His wife's a magnificent person. And
she is.
He's punching way above his weight, by the way, as well.
Is, yeah.
So his daughters are at the wrong sort of age, aren't they? They're sort of in primary school, ready to go to high school. Dad, we got friends here.
They're settled.
So that's tricky.
I get it.
That's tricky, isn't it?
I actually am not surprised at all, and I get it. I'd probably do the same thing.
Yeah, I know. And I've got a very close person who's spying on him, who used to be at the club, and not spying on him, you know what I mean? I'm just talking about...
He's aware of his circumstances.
Yeah, and he was never really considering it because it just didn't fit with his family. And, I get that. I don't know if there's a Kirribilli deal being done with John Longmire.
Oh, he would be the next coach at Sydney.
Yeah, will it be he'd want to be 2026 if you're not coming. But, I suppose the Eagles is a 5-year build, isn't it, really, to get to anywhere near knocking on the door.
Well, people are saying that the Eagles should chase John Longmire. And we'll throw a few other names out.
He loves coaching.
He loves coaching.
He absolutely loves. He is addicted to coaching. Like he would probably won. I mean, it's a bit like Simo. Simo absolutely loves it as well. Buckley would like to get back
Buckley,
in. But his kids are at a weird age too, and he's had the separation, and so there's all that. do I leave town, leave my kids sort of thing, I suppose.
It's a tough one.
Get in that situation.
There's a few other names. Ashley Hansen, very highly regarded assistant coach at Carlton.
I reckon he's a huge contender.
Wherever he's gone, success has followed. The Western Bulldogs, coached the VFL team there to a premiership. Now as an assistant at Carlton, going pretty well, Carlton. Hayden Skipworth at Collingwood, he's another one. Jamie Graham, very highly regarded assistant coach at Fremantle now, and wherever he's gone.
Played for the Eagles. Played for the Eagles. No, you don't have to have played for the Eagles, but Ash Hansen, premiership player, Dean Cox.
But I'm going to throw another one out there. It seems kind of obvious, but I reckon the caretaker, even though they got beaten by 72 at the weekend, following a pretty good 13-point loss to Brisbane, I reckon Schofield should be in the chop-up too, because I think he has, and if you look at his apprenticeship, 3 premierships, coached his own club, so 3 premierships.
On Subi. I could have coached Subi.
Okay, but he's still
got a premiership.
Still got him to 5 grand finals.
German, Waters and all those guys and the brown paper bags. Oh, sorry, did I say that? No, Waters and Germo and the white goods. Oh, did I say that? No, off the back of Germo.
You did say all that, by the way.
And Waters. Mate, I could, seriously,
what's that
expression you Victorians use? Old Jack the Blind Miner or whatever is it?
Yeah,
could have coached him. You remember
that one?
You know that experience?
Yeah, I do. I don't know.
No, it's Snowy from the Trams.
Oh, yes,
that
Snowy from the Trams.
Snowy from the Trams could have coached Subi to some flags. Not running down. Running down Scully.
Great job.
And I knew Scully well because I was at West Coast when he arrived. He was part of our group. Which was known as the Rat Pack.
Yeah, there you go.
So he was in there, and it'd be good to see the first bloke with the sleeve tattoo coach the senior.
Well, I just like the way he's handled himself. He's really good with the media.
He's straightened up.
He's great with the media in that he gives you nothing but gives you plenty, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, he's very smart. He's pretty hard on blokes too.
High footy IQ. But
having seen him in the early days and him becoming tough makes me think. When I always see that in blokes, I go, what's really underneath, if you know what I mean? Because he was a wild man, no doubt, back in the old days. And he's straightened right up.
We all were.
And now he really cracks blokes, and you're thinking, hang on. You see it a lot in players, Malthouse, Sheedy, all those sort of blokes. Anyway.
Jared played under Mick, played in a premiership with Port Adelaide. He's been an assistant coach at Port Adelaide, an assistant coach at West Coast. And on the back of, forget about the Subi stuff, he was still... And they lost 2 grand finals too. And I kind of like that because you've got the experience, the rounded experience of winning and losing, He's still coached his own team for a long time. So I'm just saying, I'm not sound like his personal endorser here, but I just think he's worth, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets that gig. It's going to be a couple of years of pain still, Barra.
No, it's no doubt. Man, to be serious, he would be a good choice, and he has done his apprenticeship. The hardest thing is that he's coming out of the Simpson regime, so how much does sheet home to him? He was looking after the midfield. How much does she home to how the midfield's going? All that sort of stuff. I heard Jinby today on radio say that he thought that an experienced coach would be the go.
But he's an experienced coach. You mean one with AFL experience?
Yeah, I think he meant like Chris Scott, Ken Hinkley, Nathan Buckley.
Yeah, Hinkley's name's been mentioned in dispatches.
And I would say that... they need a development coach because I've seen coaches just coach to win. That's where I'm not sure about Hinkley.
I think they need a development coach, and I think
that's
Jared
where
Schofield
Buckley may not be the same. Well, speaking to the great Dane Swan, he said he probably is not that sort of coach.
Who?
Nathan Buckley.
Okay.
Obviously was coached by him.
Yep.
And probably not a massive rap of him. I suspect he didn't say that, but he just said that he's probably not a development coach. Chris Scott, I don't know. Geelong, it's special, Geelong. Maybe he has got something going. Like Sam Mitchell. Did you hear that story of Sam Mitchell this week?
Yep.
About how...
In Tassie when they had the meeting?
No, you tell that one then.
It was just when the Clarko-Mitchell takeover was starting. It was just a bit of an insight from Jay Clark. It was a nice read. It was just, I won't go into detail. It's just how it all evolved. And, So,
No, the story was about Watson.
Yep.
Your man Watson. Is it Nick Watson?
Nick the Wizard, yes.
Yeah, the one. He just wanted to kill him if you were playing on him, honestly. But but hasn't he turned the corner? I mean, he's gone from not being able to kick any goals, kick a heap of behinds, to looking like a superstar, and...
He was getting the opportunity before. He was just missing. So that's a good sign.
Yeah, and sometimes he lays it off, sometimes he doesn't. But apparently the turning point was Sam Mitchell went out and did goal kicking with him regularly. Sam Mitchell. So what happens with senior coaches, you probably know this, they don't do any of that sort of hands-on, one-on-one stuff. none of them. They're all the strategic oversight. They're like the umbrella dude, and they don't normally do the hands-on stuff. But he took Watson aside and taught him how to kick straight, and ever since then got his process going.
It wasn't a renowned goal kicker, Sam, but he's a bloody good kick.
Mate, he was one of the most skillful blokes ever to play the game on both sides of the body.
Well, people didn't know whether he's a left or right footer.
I know, a freak. So going back to those blokes, so Ken Hinckley's been thrown up by, I think Tim Gossage has been throwing him up. So I don't know what the connection is there. You mentioned Hayden Skipworth. I think Ash Hanson's a huge chance. I think you're right.
And a West Coast man, West Coast premiership player.
Yeah.
And you and I both worked with his father. Remember Clark? So Clark Hanson was a ABC journo back in Melbourne when I was working in Melbourne. Lovely guy, great operator.
Very decent man, Ash Hanson. Somehow dodged all the dramas of 06, 07.
Yeah.
I think when they came to look at the captaincy, so when did Hanson retire? It wouldn't be long after that, would it?
It was a couple of years.
Apparently when they looked for the captaincy after...
after, let's just call it the off-field dramas.
They had a list and they said, okay, who hasn't...
wasn't involved in the off-field dramas.
Yeah, who hasn't partaken?
Who hasn't been involved in the off-field dramas?
Who hasn't
so Glassy got the gig.
And there was 5 blokes.
Yeah.
Who hadn't? I think Rowan Jones, Brett Jones, Darren Glass,
Ash Hanson.
And so one of them was going to be captain.
Geez, you've incriminated a lot of other blokes.
Oh, and a lot of other blokes.
Yeah, and a lot of other blokes as well.
Yeah, there was a lot other blokes. That 5th person could have been anyone, but probably wasn't. But you know what I mean. Like, so they said, we can't afford to have a bloke that's, something could happen to. So
Ash is one of those guys, and you ring him for an interview, and he's a really nice, personable guy, but you ring him for an interview, and you just walk away thinking, geez, smart. So I got a lot out of that.
Yeah, switched on.
Very high
dude,
footy IQ.
And very serious about it. Hayden Skipworth, you mentioned, I don't know a lot about him.
Just big raps at Collingwood, and clearly Collingwood have been going pretty well. So there's a few options there for them. Someone will it's a great gig, but then you've just got to prepare yourself for a bit of pain.
Yeah.
And it's a big club.
The next 2 years at least are going to be tricky, aren't they?
Yep.
Like, 6 to 10 wins next 2 years?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, from what I saw...
And I think Eagles fans need to prepare themselves for that. And then in 2 years' time, all the greats are getting old. McGovern, Barras, Yo, Cripps, Darling would be gone by then.
One of them will be 37 next year. So there's going to be another big transition. And, there is...
They haven't got a lot of picks next year either, have they? No. Yeah, so there's a bit of work to be done.
Yeah.
But tell us about, mate, when are you going to do your story on the front page?
It's done.
Yeah, I know, it's there. I mean...
let's talk about it. So it's just a really interesting story I've been working on for over a year. A guy called Graham Atty, and he's designed this helmet in his workshop in his backyard in South Fremantle. I've been down there, I've had a look, and from the outset I'll say helmets don't prevent concussion, right? They never have.
Oh, hang on, mate.
But this guy... No, they don't, Barra. But up until this point, so I'm not saying this will, I'm saying there's a... great possibility this is going to alleviate concussion.
If there's padding and you hit the ground, it helps.
There's fractures.
No question. No, there's no question. If don't wear them in rugby for no reason or boxing or
rugby helmets were designed to stop for the ears and the cuts.
Yeah, okay. What's boxing for?
Cuts, ears, head fractures, concussion.
What's NFL for?
Well, they're the hard shells. They don't prevent concussion.
What was Jason Dunstall wearing one for?
Because he had that really bad split across the top
of
his skull.
What about ice hockey? What do they wear them for?
The flying pucks.
What about riding your bike? What do you wear that for?
For top fractures when you fall off. It's like a broken egg.
Mate.
Anyway,
don't tell me that when you hit the ground, if you're not wearing padding, it doesn't help.
So
it absorbs some of the impact.
If you let me finish, so I've spoken to quite a few neurologists, and they are of the opinion that
I have friends who are neurologists. Don't forget.
I know you do.
Yeah, thanks.
I've also spoken to Melinda Fitzgerald. She's an absolute expert in all of this stuff, and she's also of the mindset that helmets don't prevent concussion. But she's had a look at the data involved, and she knows all about this helmet, and she says, I'm cautiously optimistic about this one. Now, the reason I say that, they've done tests with it in the New South Wales Crash Lab, which is the world leader, the guy...
Famous Crash Lab.
They do. They test all helmets go through this Crash Lab. So what they basically did is they put the same weight as a head, I think it's 5 or 6 kilos or whatever, and they put it into a helmet and they do these tests, and it's reduced impact by 94%. So now it's a case you get it out in the field, you do trials, you put it on the heads of some players, and maybe 3 years of trials. Advanced talks with the AFL, talks with the NRL, advanced talks with rugby league clubs in the UK, and their long game plan is to go to the NFL because it's all about the rolling ball principle. When you make contact with the helmet, you roll off it. The head doesn't roll with it, you roll off it. So that's the key. And one area that it could help, Barra, is an area we're all concerned about, and that is the high mark. So the high mark where the knee goes back into the poor bloke's head. So this could help.
Save the high mark? You're saving the high mark?
We could save I'm not. Graham Atty, the designer,
But for that to happen, everyone has to wear it.
Well, I think...
So, mate, I would be saying...
Could be compulsory.
The only reason players don't wear it is because it's hot and because it doesn't look cool.
Well, I've had this thing on my head and there's 150 holes in it. It's not hot. But... you got to get your head around the
Doesn't
look
look
of it.
that cool.
No, it doesn't. But, you can paint it.
That's the problem, mate.
You can paint it.
You're just got to have to. You're going to have to legislate. You're going to have to say, boys, I'm sorry. You're going to have to wear them. If you want to play footy, you have to wear them because otherwise you're going to sue us later on, a la Brad Shepherd, whoever else, say because you're not wearing it. So we're saying if you want to sue us and you want to play footy, you need to wear this helmet. And then people are going to go off about that because they'll say they won't want it. They'll be all the traditionalists won't want to wear it.
Sign a waiver then.
There's a lot of when I go to junior footy now, and I coached. Anyway, when I go to junior footy now, there's a lot of kids wearing helmets. We've seen the little fella at the Giants. What's his name from WA? Looks fantastic on him.
And also, obviously, Caleb Daniel's been wearing one for many years, but they're different. This is a different looking helmet.
Yeah.
It's a very different looking helmet.
It's less cool, I'd have to say.
Do you think so? Well,
although if you paint it or something, I don't know, different colour.
Paint it your club colours, mate.
Club colours.
Yeah.
Just like the fella at the Giants as well. He looks, and the orange and charcoal looks very fashionable.
And Angus Brainshaw.
I would encourage all parents listening to this to put a helmet on your son.
Yeah.
My son, not so good. He started using a head as a battering ram, but he was playing rugby. So it probably backfired in that respect because he got more confident.
I'm glad the story's out there, Barra, and now we can get the field trials happening, and I'll be updating it from time to time. But it's a good story worth telling, and I'm glad I got to tell it first.
Yes, I'm glad they put it on the front page too, mate.
So do I.
Head case.
So am I.
Did you come up with that headline?
I didn't, mate. I'll let the production people do that.
Hey, by the way, I meant to mention, when Coxie turned down the Eagles.
Yes. The back page headline.
He turned his back on the Eagles, said no to the Eagles. Was there a discussion about what sort of headlines we'd have?
I wasn't here, mate. I was in Melbourne, fortunately.
Good, mate.
Oh, come on. We're better than that, aren't we?
Yes. Well, you were in the end.
There you go.
I thought Jacob was pretty clever how he's...
Oh, there's a little reference to it.
He goes, you thought we were going to make some Cox jokes.
Yeah.
and there was a lot coming in.
Hey, now, Barra, just before we get into the games...
You want any of them?
Hey, before we get into the games, congratulations to this week's weekly winner, Mark Lee with 9. The overall leader, this is in the Quarters and Barra tipping competition, the game tipping competition. Overall leader, Jay West with 113. Well done to both of you. I got 7 at the weekend, had a pretty good weekend, and you got 5, so I'm 109, you're 100.
Can I just explain that?
Yep.
You know when Microsoft went down?
Yes.
So did that app.
Oh,
and so I was unable. True? So I actually got Adelaide, so I look like a genius, tipped Adelaide.
Okay, well done. Could you not get your tips in? Because I wasn't here. I'd landed, as soon as I landed Barra, the whole world went into meltdown. So my timing was good.
Did it affect you at all?
Not at all.
Not really.
Because I had to do some work on my laptop from a hotel room. But by the time that had all happened, I was still able to send it through. So it actually had zero impact on me. Apart from, I guess I was a bit stressed about, am I going to be able to file from the footy tomorrow night? Am I going to be able to
You do get a bit stressed, don't you?
Well, on a deadline you do.
I know. You've got the deadline sort of junkie. The deadline
was drilled into
blues. The deadline blues.
Well, you don't want to be.
You live with that. Do you wake up in the middle of the night thinking, "Geez, have I done that?" Or "I need to get up," or "Have I filed yet?"
No.
I bet you do. I bet you have dreams like that. Just say you do anyway.
I actually do have Control-Alt-Delete dreams. Like you think about what you're going to write the next day. You do have those.
You get up and write it down.
Yeah, I get some really clever little lines in my head, and I've always got a notepad next to my bedside table. So I do write some stuff down in the middle of the night. Sometimes you get up in the morning and you think, "What the hell is that?"
That's what I was going to say. You're right. You write down something. You think you're a genius at 2 a.m. Geez, that's going to be the greatest line. I'm going to put a book around that. You know what I mean? Lord of the Rings or something, and you read it in the morning and go, what the?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Now, but I wanted to say, we've got some little models here on our desk, mate. This is from a long-time listener, Corey Jones. G'day, Corey. Thank yous for sending in. So he's from Puzzle Pitch in WA, and he sent him some of his 3D stadium puzzles. So we've got the Sydney Cricket. I've got Sydney Cricket Ground and Optus Stadium here.
Mate, I've got the belter.
Who have you got?
I've got Subi Oval.
Oh, you got
How's
the old
gig is this?
Subi.
We've got the cameras. Look, there's even...
I think is that Sydney? Yeah, that's Sydney. It looks like Sydney.
But this has even got...
Optus Stadium here.
Okay, so just have a look at, focus on this, Quarters, Subiaco Oval, the old gates.
Wow.
It's even got the old gates
wow.
in front, Richard. That's the only bit left. The old gates.
Isn't it funny?
And the green bit, that's left
Someone was asking me about that last night, actually, in Melbourne, about Subi.
Why do we ever get rid of that? I suppose
the stadium?
We probably should have redeveloped
Can't
that.
keep the stadium.
Optus is super.
Yeah. No, the heritage gates remain. You can't keep the rest of it.
Yeah, well done to that bloke.
The original dugouts are still there,
What have I got here? I must have... I've got Allianz Stadium too in Sydney.
You know the original dugouts are still there that you used to sit in?
No.
And get told off, berated by Mick. You should go back there and just recall...
Just have memories of sitting there.
Sitting there with Mick.
I'd write some good stuff there.
Well, Mick on the phone to you. One of the real bad ones.
I didn't get on the phone, mate. It wasn't that important.
Wasn't it?
I was more just sitting on the bench stuff.
Yeah. Did you ever run from a trainer when they were coming to give you info?
Tried to hide. Used to try to hide from the runner, absolutely, or try to get a kick or kick a great goal because you knew you were under the pump. That used to always happen. Mm-hmm. Hey, I wanted to mention too.
Yes, do.
When you're talking about that.
Thank you to Corey Jones, by the way. We love the puzzles.
Well done, Corey Jones. Very good. Well done to David Templeman, the Minister for Sport and Rec and a lot of other things, and Rita Safiotti.
The entertaining David Templeman.
Yeah, great entertainer, but a very good minister. And Rita Safiotti, Deputy Premier, Treasurer, she's got Metronet going for us, that train, fantastic. But they've thrown their weight behind what we were trying to achieve last week with what was happening to the Dockers and the unfairness of the AFL and having to go to Tasmania, and they've weighed in behind it. They've actually weighed in. I think they might have even written, I believe, to the AFL saying, hey, lay off Freo. What's going on? Why are you sending him to Tassie? How about some more home games for the Eagles and the Dockers? So some big, heavy hitters getting behind that push, which is, well done.
Yeah,
threatening
well done.
to secede, stuff like that.
Let's stop threatening to secede, please. Don't want to secede.
I don't know. What would it be like if we
horrible.
seceded? If we had our own country?
Australia. Come on.
I mean, we haven't got much of an army. That'd be hard.
Who wants to secede?
We've got Garden Island. That can protect us for a while.
Karnak. You could go to Karnak with the snakes.
No, but what I mean is we wouldn't have much military, would we? That's the only thing.
We'd be in a bit of trouble. Defending that vast coastline, I think we'd be in a bit of strife.
We'd have to buy some food from the east, but they'd do us a good deal based on our previous relationships.
Yeah.
But we'd give them a lot of our... I mean, the money, the GST money, it wouldn't be GST then because we wouldn't be paying jack shit. Got it? Heard that? Because we produce most of that, don't we? That's the other thing. We're sort of keeping the country afloat.
We are.
So they should look after us, being serious for one moment. They should take that into account because Victoria doesn't do too much, to be fair. You're very small, very small state.
Agricultural produce,
no money,
wheat and sheep.
You're basically bankrupt.
That's not true.
Have you just been there? Have you looked around?
Fantastic place, mate.
You can't be drinking your way through pain and problems all the time, mate.
Beautiful Yarra.
Oh, yeah. It's you and the saying, whatever it is. Who's got more poo in it?
I used to jump into that river, the Yarra River, but I'd always keep my mouth closed.
Could you do that now?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? No, you couldn't.
Well, you have that part of it where the rowing sheds. That's my favourite bar in Melbourne, the Riverside Bar. You're under the Princess Bridge. You look across at the rowing sheds down to the MCG.
Oh,
fantastic part of Melbourne.
It is good as a vista.
Oh, yes.
Call that a vista.
It's a great part of Melbourne.
That's a good vista.
Should we talk about some games?
Yeah, right.
And I've got some votes here. Let's start with the mighty Fremantle Dockers, mate.
Oh,
what an impressive victory.
Did they look like premiers?
Well, they look like a top 4 team. So from there, you can be a premier.
I reckon they look. I know it's only Melbourne. I mean, how highly do we rate Melbourne?
I rate them. I rate them highly, but without Gawn, they're very gettable and sort of hung in there for a half, didn't they? And then it was all over. My man again.
I reckon they did better in the second half.
And actually, let's hold off on the warning because we've got a couple of emails, so we'll give that a run because we've got to. I've been told we don't use it enough.
He was good. Have you got the coaches' votes?
I've got
there?
the coaches' votes
just
here.
Just give me
mate.
the coaches' votes, mate, because I've got some stuff to back you
so
up.
Andrew Brayshaw and Caleb Sarong 9 each. Josh Tracy on 6. Hayden Young 4, and Brandon Walker a vote, and Michael Walters a vote with that 4-goal performance. So they were pretty impressive,
mate. How was that? So he was the sub. He was going to be sub 2 weeks in a row, which meant next week, this weekend, he would have had to go back to the waffle because he hadn't played properly for 2 weeks, and generally you'd have to send him back. You couldn't train your way out of that, and I was worried because guess who Peel are playing this weekend? Perth.
It always comes back to Perth.
I'm thinking Walters is going to come and go mental
8 or something. Yeah.
So anyway, what happened was Johnson pulled out late. They were going to sub, and then Johnson pulled out late, and they said, "Son, you're going to have to start. We need you as a forward, midfield, or whatever." And Aish, you go and be the sub. And so he started, kicked a goal early, gave the captain Starlight salute. How good was that? How good was Jackson's goal, the banana from the boundary? That was unbelievable. He gave the salute as well.
I love the Starlight stuff too. I've had a little bit of involvement with the Starlight Foundation, and they do an amazing job
all those
everywhere, but
Starlights,
particularly the ones
cheering up the kids
at the Children's Hospital. They do an amazing job.
$400,000 they raised for that.
Yeah,
well done,
good.
Freo.
Good for them.
Hey, what about the goal that Jordan Clark kicked too? So Stephen May, who's probably our least favourite player now, isn't he?
Why?
Have you seen the way he carries on? The way he tries to rough blokes up,
Okay.
and he's mate. He needs to have a look at him, good look at himself. Anyway, he chips the ball into the middle, spoilt by Jordan, goes down. Brayshaw, who had the game of his life,
41 possessions,
best game, but he smothers and he gets the ball, takes the hit, does a shepherd. May tries to squash him, with an elbow or whatever. He still gets the ball to Jordan, who just run on after he spoiled it in the middle and just kicks that goal. It was one of the goals of the year.
Having some season, isn't he?
Jordan Clark.
Yeah.
He's all Australian form.
But didn't pick him in the initial squad.
I know.
Pick him in the squad now.
Now, and Andrew Brayshaw, seriously, I reckon that's career best game.
Yep.
Career best game. 41 touches. Some of the second efforts, the small things that he did. Hayden Young had 28, 11 inside 50s.
Yeah, it's
11.
You'd be, as a forward, you'd be salivating when you over some of his entries.
Caleb Sarong, 36, and they obliterated them in the ruck and obliterated them.
Well, why didn't they pick a ruckman?
But they haven't got one. They basically haven't got one.
There's a development ruckman there. Give him some experience.
It was bad coaching by Goodwin. There's no
Shout
doubt.
out to Jacob Van Rooyen, who WA boy, kicked 2. It was not much opportunity, but he is a very good player.
But did you see?
And my boy in the middle, Trent Rivers.
Mate, no.
Sorry.
Mate. Sorry now. Gone. Rivers and Clayton Oliver and Viney, the second greatest spifflication of all time.
Still in their best.
In
Rivers.
the clearances, 47-15.
I'm not saying they didn't get the midfield didn't
47-15
lower their colours,
in the first half.
He wasn't the worst of them, mate. He was the best of them.
I don't think they had a clearance in the first half.
Yeah, that's bad.
Viney, Oliver, and Rivers. I mean, fair dinkum. Okay, you haven't got a ruckman.
You can bag Viney and Oliver, but don't. Viney just kicks them straight up in the air. But Rivers, mate, he's at the coalface.
He is, but
give him some credit,
mate. They've got this is like the biggest belting in the midfield we've ever had. Second greatest statistically, 47-15. Incredible. And Brayshaw, seriously, career best game. Absolutely loved his game.
And I guess the really sobering element of the game was Alex Pearce's second fracture in that arm. I really felt for him. You could see the disappointment. It was palpable. Straight off to the bench. Let's just hope. How long? We're talking. Do you give it 3?
It's minimum 4. He came back in 4 last time.
So that gets him back with a week to go before finals.
You know what normally happens is I didn't check if he's got a plate in his arm, but if it's a plate, normally what happens is they get a fracture around the edge of the plate when you get hit there because that's the weak spot. And it looked innocuous, didn't it? And he came straight off. So, yeah, not great. I don't think they mismanaged it. I think 4 weeks is probably, some blokes try to play after 2 with a plate in there.
How long was he out?
Was his guard big enough? I don't know.
Well, they were worried about
4
infection.
weeks.
They weren't worried about the fracture. They were worried about infection. But that's why I didn't play in Tassie. But so good. All the best to Alex Pearce. They need him. He's a leader, and players grow around him. So
Well, Draper, they got Draper up their sleeve, I suppose.
they've got options, and Davies, but I think we need Alex Pearce in that side at finals time. So that's the good news, I suppose.
What's the we thing, brother? What's happening there?
Well, we're from Western Australia.
Oh, okay.
These are our two teams. Now, who
are you going for in the Derby then?
Oh, Freo win that, particularly after the
Are you using we in the Derby or no?
Well, both teams are we, if we're talking from a West Australian. Well, I'm a Hawthorn supporter, but of course we're from WA. Don't we want a Derby grand final every year? Doesn't that help us all?
You're wriggling out of it, mate.
No, mate.
Actually, I saw something.
I want to throw a stat at you, though, on the other game. West Coast St Kilda, that was pretty damning, mate. And that was, and I spoke to Jared Schofield about this after the game. 23 tackles inside 50 to St Kilda.
None.
0 to West Coast.
No. Where was Cripsy?
Didn't have a great game, Cripsy. Did not have a great game.
In the gun?
Possibly, yeah.
I don't reckon any of those blokes will play in the Derby, by the way.
Yeah.
I know Duggan's definitely still in.
No, he's a week more of concussion because he's had a couple.
Yep,
which is the way to go. Well done, Eagles. Yeah.
There was a magnificent funeral yesterday for Craig Yeo.
Yes.
If anyone's listening, Craig Yeo, spectacular, great man, fantastic. This is Elliot and Corey's dad. Beautiful man, beautiful ceremony. But Yoey, I think he's got some other injury, and rather than what we're saying, his neck or his pec or whatever.
It was managed out, basically.
I think it might be a leg injury.
Okay.
So I'll be very surprised if he plays because it's the sort of thing you can do again. McGovern, would you race him back?
Nope.
Punctured lung, broken ribs. So.
Give him another week. He would want to play, but I'm saying for the greater good of you, you're not playing. You're having another week out at least. Well, it was punctured lung and broken ribs. He had to drive back, couldn't fly. So let's just give him an extra week. But they say he's in the mix. Jake Waterman comes back into that side, which is good.
I reckon Jake's even doubtful, mate.
Do you?
Yep.
They seem pretty confident.
I think that'll be his 100th game too.
IT band. So it's the band that goes round the back of your knee, isn't it?
No, down the side.
Down the side of your knee and joins up just below the knee.
ITB, down the side of you.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you risk him? It's his 100th game. Yeah.
Oh, he'll want to play a 100th game in a derby, surely.
Would you?
Yeah. Oh, by the way,
it's not a home game. Don't forget, it's not a home game.
So well done so the votes in that game, and here's the thing: 9 Memory, 8 Sinclair, 6 Marshall, 5 Steele, 1 to Wanganeen Malera, and 1 to Josh Battle. Tim Memory kicks 5 goals, but this is the funny thing: I thought Tom Barras did okay because that back line was under the pump.
But he wasn't on him all the time.
No, yeah.
They're the sort of things that are going to hurt Scully, your man.
Yep.
If Memory kicks 5, you go, what the? I mean, how does Memory kick 5? He's no world beater, is he?
Because, mate, it was I was there and it was just floodgates, and they actually did a pretty good job. And by the way, Jaden Hunt and Ruben Jinby, since being moved to half back, he's
that's been a good
building
move.
some really good form.
Give Scully a tick for that.
Tick for Scully.
Yep.
Jaden Hunt's now, he was really good at the weekend, but there weren't too many others. But I'd say, the defence did its best under siege. And those forwards to not lay a tackle inside 50.
So weird.
The midfield early too. Yeah, I said the midfield was, it struggled a bit at times.
Jack Williams kicked 3. That was nice to see.
Well, off limited opportunity, Barra. So that, again, is why you play Jack Williams.
And what did you think of Harley?
It was a sort of almost game, but with Harley, I'm worried about his combative nature. I think he's trying a little bit too hard to. And I asked Jared Schofield about this. He said, "No, we're not worried. That's the way he plays, and we want to encourage that. That's fine. But as long as it's not, you've got to find the balance." And I'm just not sure. He picked a fight with just about every St Kilda player, and particularly liked Rowan Marshall.
Yeah, and he was involved in the Liam Henry thing as well.
Yeah.
What happens in the derby?
Good luck to Liam Henry, too, out for the rest of the season with a knee injury. And well done to Bradley Hill, game number 250.
Yeah, that was lovely. See his family there. And see, his brother flew over as well.
Yep.
Yeah, the great Docker. But what happens in the derby with Harley Reid? Do you reckon that they
he plays.
Try to incite him? Because
he
carved him. Remember, he carved him when we won.
Yeah.
We won. Are we allowed to say we won with that one? Or,
of course you are. Well, you're an Eagles.
When do you start with the we, mate? You started the we thing.
Yeah, I know.
Do you play we at home?
I regret it now.
Do you like we? Have you played we with your son? Have you? Yeah. Yeah, I'm worried what's going to happen to Harley in the derby. Because there'll be Docker's crowd tearing shreds off him.
Oh, he just starts in the middle.
And I don't know who goes to him. Probably Hayden Young. In terms of, it won't be a tag, it'll just be a matchup. Although Young started on the bench, which I thought was interesting. So it might be Fife.
Could be.
That'd be cool, wouldn't it?
Is he a bit quick for Fife?
Possibly, yeah.
You could run away from him now.
So it's probably Caleb, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd say, yeah, maybe. Look, I'll think they'll back themselves and then go to plan B if he starts getting away from
Yeah, they won't tag him. No, I didn't mean tag. Who's going to play on? Because who's going to try to upset him? Because they know that they can maybe get him upset him. It's getting a bit tricky, that whole re-sign and Harley thing, isn't it?
Well, he's got 3 years.
2 years. 2 years, is it? And
3.
Yeah.
3 for a first rounder now.
Yeah, that's right. 3
so they're
years.
trying to get him on a 4th. But the cackle is that they're not offering as much as interstate clubs are offering in that 4th year.
Or is his management playing it smart?
Don't know.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's look. The other winners are cracking game, Brisbane and Sydney. That's 4 losses to Sydney, all by under a kick, Barra. That tells me they're a very good side. Which is when they get beaten, they don't lose by much. Great effort.
Are they still the premiership favourites then?
Absolutely they are. I think Brisbane you've got to take really seriously now, and they are in 3rd position. Rayner, Andrews again, McCluggage.
Rayner?
How good
Rayner?
is and how good's McCluggage? What a good player. I think we underrate.
But you were bagging Rayner a couple of weeks ago. He's come good.
Yeah, well, I was. Yep, that's fair enough. I just didn't think he did enough, Barra, for his immense talent. But he's the sort of player.
You're way too honest.
He needs to be up and about if they're to really go deep in September. He's the sort of player. And well done to Brisbane. 5 ACLs. To even play finals is going to be a remarkable achievement, and they're going to play finals. But to be now challenging, I think, is just a real credit to Chris Fagan and the boys. Well done. Sydney didn't really do much wrong. I mean, it could have gone either way late. It's just a bounce of the ball here, but good effort from them. Errol Goulden again, Taylor Adams, McCartan.
They got a couple of injuries now at Sydney, though. Are you a bit worried about that? Papley, Rampy.
Rampy's a big worry, and Papley obviously is too. They're two. Papley's like the barometer, isn't he? Really, when he's up and about. But Rampy is one of the most underrated defenders in the competition. So I am concerned about that. Carlton, North Melbourne. Carlton, we were worried about Mackay and Curnow getting hold of him, but in the end they kicked 6 between them. So not too bad. Cripps, another great game.
Have you got the coaches' votes there for that game?
Because I can find them for you. Yes,
I'd be very because Sheasel.
He was great.
Unbelievable.
He was
unbelievable.
Yeah. So you want to know the coaches' votes?
Yeah,
10 Sheasel. So
10. Well, so they lost.
And they didn't lose by much. Sheasel 10, Cripps 8.
They lost by 3 goals.
Cherry 5, LDU 3, Charlie Curnow 2, Tom DeConing 1, and Adam Sard 1.
So Curnow's kicked forward and Sheasel got the 10 votes. Mate, I tell you what, how are you feeling about North Melbourne now?
Well, they're coming good.
I think you were getting into Clarkson at one stage too, weren't you?
So they should be coming good. They've had 30 first-round draft picks.
He's so honest.
So they should.
Hey, boys, how honest is he? Mate, who else you been getting into that's made you look silly? No, sorry. Sam Mitchell. I think you might have even slipped at one stage there. I think you slipped into Sam Mitchell, didn't you?
I don't remember
You said he's not a genius.
I
think you said he's not the genius he thinks he is.
Did I? Oh.
That sounds like you. Or is that me?
Well, don't dig that out if you can find it, please. I can't recall hearing
but
that.
seriously, North. I mean, you'd be if you're a North fan, you'd be pretty happy now. I mean, it's turned quickly. We've been shit canning them for ages.
It hasn't turned quickly. It's been a bit of a slow
yeah,
watch.
no, but I mean this year, like earlier this year, we were saying.
I repeat myself, mate. They got 30 first-round draft picks. Of course you're going to be better. There's some elite talent in there.
They've nearly beaten the Blues.
Yeah.
Their young blokes are amazing. I mean, like you'd rather be them than Richmond or West Coast. Now,
are we going to take Geelong seriously or the Western Bulldogs seriously as premiership contenders?
Bulldogs can beat anyone. They're just schizophrenic.
How good's Rory Lobb? Rory Lobb going into defence. Carved up Cameron.
I know. I was winding up the Dockers people on social media, particularly this bloke, mate of mine, Mark. He's a pastor. He's a lovely bloke. He listens to this. G'day, Mark. He's a good fellow. I think he lives in Victoria now, actually. Yep. He's actually a very good man, but he can't stand Rory and anyone who's left the club, basically. And I was just tweeting, mate, how good's Rory Lobb? He's taken Jeremy Cameron to the cleaners. And they would have been teammates at the Giants, wouldn't they?
Yes.
So I reckon Jeremy was probably going, yeah, here we go. He would have been rubbing his hands together. 5 or 6 for me. And lobstowed him.
Yes. It was a great performance.
And I think some of the kicking didn't help, to be honest. And Jezza, if you're listening.
So here's a question to pose, right, off the back of that. Could the Eagles play Jack Darling in defence?
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
try him in one
When
game.
McGovern's not there. Yeah.
Try him in one
but
game.
They don't want to. Why should they experiment with him? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. They've got Harry Edwards and other youngest players. Yeah.
You've got to get matches into it.
Agree with that.
The Jack Darling question is, should Collingwood or Melbourne take him for a year or two?
Well, I've always said Melbourne.
Have you?
If they're
just looking at their forward line of the weekend, I was thinking Darling would have got a kick in there.
Well, if you're in the premiership window's open, he's got a year or two left. Yes, you should look at him.
I reckon that's what they've got to try to do, to shift him. But Rory Lobb, I'll give you the stats. Second for intercept marks in the comp, Zirk Thatcher beat him last week. And third for intercept possessions, just behind Mackay and Wiedering. And he looked like friggin' Sam Taylor.
So coaches' votes in that game, Adam Treloar 9, Rory Lobb 9.
Rory got 9.
Yep.
Hey, Mark, you listening, buddy?
Ed Richards 6. Booby Karmas 2. Jamara Ugelhagen 2. Bailey Dale 1. Tom Stewart 1.
Mate, if you had said the Bulldogs are going to beat Geelong.
Booba Karmas is. Oh, he's a good
and
player.
And Booba Karmas and Lobb are going to star.
Yeah, it's a big call.
You would have said you got rocks in your head, Barry. And who's that other bloke you just mentioned?
Bailey Dale. No, good player.
No, Booba Karmas.
Buku.
Oh, Buku.
Yeah.
Buku.
Here's another question. I'll read out the Hawthorn Collingwood votes. Jack Ginnivan 8, Connor McDonald 8, James Sicily 5, Connor Nash 4, Dylan Moore 3, Jarman Impey 1, Massimo D'Ambrosio 1. Jack Ginnivan.
Ginnivan, mate, unbelievable. And I told you what Dane Swan said, none too happy with him. And I was a little bit surprised. He is a premiership player for Collingwood to taunt. Did you see him taunt the Collingwood cheer
you didn't
squad?
like that? You didn't like it?
I loved it, but I'll tell you what.
They were booing him.
He went down there and he did the put you to sleep, the baby bye-bye, Yorgonski sort of thing. And then they were taking photos. But I thought it was a little bit rich given he is a Collingwood premiership player. But he's a showman. And I tell you what, he delivered.
They were booing him.
Yeah, I know, but
weren't they criticising other clubs 2 years ago for booing Jack Ginnivan?
Mate,
and now they're booing him.
They would boo Santa at Christmas. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not a special thing, but I thought him giving it back to them because they would have been cheering him as hard as possible when he was playing for Collingwood. Imagine the cheers he got from them. He would have been their favourite player, and now they absolutely hate him. 30 possessions, though. He's the real deal. Who would have thought that he would become the real deal? Did you say he got all the coaches' votes or not?
He got 9, I think. What did I say? He got 9 votes.
Nash,
no, he got 8 votes.
McDonald.
Connor McDonald, good player too. GWS Gold Coast, another loss on the road to Gold Coast, but GWS just sitting there in 5th spot. Do we take them seriously? Yeah, we're only 5 weeks out from finals.
Jesse Hogan, he's like a different bloke. I mean, he has been building, I know, but he kicks another 4. He's kicked 49 goals. The way he was competing in that, I was so proud of him. West Australian boy, had a few dramas, mental challenges he had to get over, and he's done it with the help of his manager and his family and everybody else. Toby Green looked like he was coming back to some form. Yeah, I think they can challenge again. I think they're rising again. They might be rising at the right time.
Yep.
Who have they got this week? They've got Melbourne at the MCG too. Good to be back on the G.
Sydney GWS Grand Final. It's a possibility. Are we going to see Port in the Grand Final? So they had a win over...
No, we're not.
41-point win over Richmond, which is sort of the... Charlie Dixon 4 goals, Mitch Georgiades 3 goals. So there's a lot to like there. Willie slotted back into the side but played okay too. So... Are we going to see Dusty again for Richmond?
Yeah, now that's becoming a problem, isn't it? He got, and I spoke to, everyone thinks I didn't drop names, but I spoke to Dane Swan about that because he's like one of his closest friends. And he's touring Western Australia at the moment, the great Collingwood. He played 258 games or something, obviously all-Australian 5 times, 5 consecutive times. I think 3 Copelands, Brownlow medal, premiership player, inducted into the Australian Football Hall of Fame this year. Out of his 258 games, I think like 118 of them, he had 30 possessions or more.
Incredible player.
30 possessions
He
or more.
was the ultimate accumulator.
Mate, what a player he was. And who were we talking about then?
Well, Port Adelaide and Richmond.
So we're talking about Dusty. So he's great friends with Dusty. And I said, you see he's getting hammered for going to New Zealand during the break. and then not playing because his back was playing up. And people like Kane Corn.
And
I don't know if it's Kane
family
Corn.
in New Zealand.
Yeah, I know. Kane Corn's type guys are saying, well, I don't know
If
if
you're
it was
injured,
Kane.
I
It
think
wasn't Kane. It was
if you're
someone
not
else.
playing and you're injured, it's okay to go
Yeah,
and
but
see family.
should you, if your back's knackered, you
Should
know,
he be on a flight?
Yeah, there
it's
and
a good
back.
call.
And he couldn't play when he came back. Has he checked out? Does he get one more game?
He surely has a farewell game.
But that 300th was so big, wasn't it? Was that enough?
Oh, you got to do it for number one. Like, you got to give him a chance to farewell you.
One more time?
Yeah, I think so.
And you think that's it?
I think it's it. I think he's done after this year. He's been to the top of Everest a few times. You know, the look gets boring after a while, mate.
Do you want to hear what the greatest sledge that
Yes.
that Swanee ever heard?
Yes. Against him from someone else.
That I think he chipped in on.
Okay. Against who?
One of his. So, I think it's okay. I'll say it, and if it's not good, we'll edit it out. All right, if it's not appropriate.
Okay.
And I can't say the first bit because it was
Good.
you know. So some bloke had sledged one of his teammates, and the guy who sledged him he had a lot of acne.
Okay.
And he had sledged this Collingwood player about who his father might be,
Yeah.
and said, yeah, you know, I can't believe you're so and so bonked a so and so, right? And he came back with, I can't believe your dad bonked a crumpet.
Oh. That's a bit cruel. It's kind of funny though.
That's a pretty good. That's up there with
The Voss brothers.
You tell the Voss's one. While I
Michael,
compose
Michael
myself.
and
His brother.
what was his brother's name?
Brett
Voss. So,
Brett's kicking for
so
goal.
Brisbane are playing
Michael's on
St
the
Kilda,
mark.
yeah, and he says, "Hey, my dad slept with your mum." It's a great line. Hey,
And he didn't say slept.
No, he didn't. I've cleaned it up, Barra. Hey, last game I want to mention, I was actually at this game on Friday night at Marvel Stadium. Adelaide v Essendon. Incredible loss for Essendon. They were well in control of that game, and then Adelaide's just gone bang, bang, bang. Never lost belief. I was really impressed with that performance from Adelaide. I'm a little surprised Ben Keys got off, though.
Yeah, I know. There was a tunnelling thing in the Brisbane game that I was very surprised was only a fine as well. But can I ask you, if you're a Bombers fan, how are you feeling?
Well, I can tell you because I was talking to a Bombers mate on Saturday night, and he's not happy.
Mate, just be
None
fun.
of them can kick.
How frustrating would it be? Oh, you think they're there, they've come of age, and then bang. And what about Draper? Hasn't he bloody gone the full circle? Last time, Sam Draper,
Against Adelaide, laid the egg.
didn't
And
get
then did the little
no free
dance
kick,
afterwards.
and then afterwards took the piss
Yeah,
by.
which is I didn't like.
What
that.
about this, boys? I did this, nothing happened.
Didn't like that.
And guess what happened in this game? They got him back. He played.
So
crap.
they've got some like Nick Martin's a good player. You know, we know Durham's a good player. Merritt's a fantastic player. They've just got some accuracy issues with it by foot. I think that's their biggest problem.
Good to see Cox back up and kicking goals, 3 goals. Caddy looks like a good player, but Jesus, frustrating. And now they're 8th. And they're just clinging on. Their percentage is terrible compared to the Bulldogs, Melbourne, and Hawthorn. So one of those could possibly knock them out.
Well, they've got the Saints this week at Marvel.
So the Saints aren't one of the teams that can knock them out,
But
are
just one have beaten the Eagles by 72 points.
they?
So
Who have the Hawks got?
Well, we're Adelaide in Adelaide. It's a tough game.
And
Last game of the round.
And the Bulldogs have got. Who have the Bulldogs got?
Bulldogs,
Sydney, so they're
yeah.
not winning.
Sydney at the
They
SCG.
might hang on for another week.
So look, it's going to be really interesting. Barra, now it's time for this.
Saddle up your camel. It's time for the Thirsty Camel mailbag.
Righto, let's get that cyclone warning button ready. Well, I think we might have a couple of Josh Tracy emails here. Thank you to Thirsty Camel, our long-time sponsor. This week's special, Jack Daniel's 700ml, only $52.99. As always, we have a $50 gift voucher to give away thanks to Thirsty Camel. Get your questions into quartersandbarra at wanews.com.au. I've got a few this week, Barra, and as you can see, I printed them out on the wrong size paper just to make sure I know that they're
Mate,
the
how many
emails.
trees did you kill to do that?
You
mate?
know, I'm
Jeepers,
I'm
mate.
not a big fan of trees, so, you know.
Mate, you know political correctness now. It feels like it. I know this will sound.
I will
stupid.
be recycling this paper, by the way.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I'll make sure he does.
No, I will be.
But it's gone a bit far now, isn't it?
Yeah.
The captain of Collingwood,
Darcy Moore.
Darcy Moore, his girlfriend comes out and says, "Oh, by the way, we're not living together anymore." Everyone goes, "Whoa, here's a story." No. That's not the story. The story is that we're living in separate houses. Instead of separate bedrooms, we're actually living in separate houses. And it's because what did she say? She called it hetero something. Anyway, it was basically she was saying she didn't want to fall into the trap that a lot of women do of if you live with a man, you end up cooking or cleaning or this sort of stuff. And so if you live separate, everybody has separate lives and everybody does their own work.
Each to their own. If it works for them, go for it.
And I thought, wow. That's become like a big talking point in the AFL, can you believe?
This one from Dylan. Those who say ruckmen are overrated are missing the point. There's just no good tap ruckmen at the moment, or at least their coaches won't allow them to show how good they are. Yeah, there's a couple. Max Gorton goes okay. Brody Grundy goes okay. Lloyd Meek goes okay. So many ruckmen try to hit the ball directly to a player at their feet, but rarely do they hit the ball wide of the contest. Nick Naitanui was a master at the long tap and so often sent players, usually Luke Shuey, off unimpeded from the contest. Take a look back at the game against Collingwood at Optus a few years back. That was a ruck masterclass. Current ruckmen lack the creativity or boldness to play that way.
Sean Darcy. I mean, we've just seen the biggest domination of all time with Jackson and Darcy up against Melbourne. And he was hitting it directly, but I get what they're saying. You've got to adapt. There's no doubt. The great Farmer was the best at adapting and could change hands. That's one of the big things. If you can change hands, it really stops.
So I played junior football with Paul Salmon, under 13s North Ringwood Premiership, undefeated. Oof. I was tiny, right? Chimpy was my nickname. And anyway,
as in chimpanzee,
as in chimp, yeah, the chimp. But Fish at 12, who was about 6'4" already, he used to say, "Chimpy, just run 30 metres that way really fast." And you'd run 30 metres that way really fast and the ball would be on your chest. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, he was a giant.
He was a very good player. Very good player. G'day, Quarters and Barra. Where do you rank Josh Tracy?
This is an important cyclone warning announcement.
Amongst key forwards in the AFL, after another solid effort on the weekend against Melbourne, May and Lever are seriously good defenders. It raises the question how good this kid can be, given he's only 21. I won't read the whole thing out, but Barra, I want you to go the entire podcast, by the way, on Thursday without saying cuz or cuzzy. Let's see if you can control your bromance.
This is Tuesday, so I'm allowed to mention it. A mate, he killed it in the bloody Dancing with the Stars. Rated its absolute off as well on Sunday night in WA.
What was his routine?
It was doing the cha-cha.
Okay.
They called it something else, the cha-cha something or other. Anyway, he did
well.
Do
any of
did
those
a slide.
Moves?
He did a
slide.
slide.
Do you do any of those moves?
No, but mate, I was impressed. He's coming good. Oh, here it is. I've found that term. So Darcy Moore and his girlfriend's living arrangements, she said she wouldn't want to live with him now because of heteronormative learned patriarch behaviours if she did.
Oh, goodness me.
So there you go.
What is it?
Discuss at your next dinner party.
Oh, yeah, I won't be doing that. Brace yourself, lads. It's time for a bit of man love. Quarters, I have no doubt you've already brought out the cyclone alert, but I feel it needs another run.
This is an important cyclone warning announcement.
The emergence of Josh Tracy this year has been a thing of beauty, and I'm absolutely in love with the way this kid goes about his game. His individual performance this weekend aside, it's the mongrel shown to go and fly the flag for Amos when Stephen May did Stephen May things that made me up and about. I love the way he imposes himself on the contest and his physicality at just 21 years old. Very, very excited for the future from one smitten Pilbara Peanut. Thank you for that. Look, I agree. I reckon if you grabbed Josh Tracy and transplanted him into a VFL or a WA side a waffle side in the 1970s or 80s as a centre-half forward, he'd fit perfectly well. He's got that combative nature.
Oh, mate.
Beautiful kick for goal. Doesn't miss too many.
That's the other thing. He's got that skill of being able to kick straight. And Amos is, 20 and he's 21. That's a great pairing that they'll have for the next decade. He does remind me, I've got to say, he might even be a bit bigger than Dermott, is he? A bit bigger than Dermott?
Yeah, a little bit bigger.
Maybe Jonathan Brown. He's like, the way he hits the contests, he's really going to hurt someone one day. That's the only thing he's got to be a little bit careful of in case they bar him for a couple of weeks. But super player. And just, when he stood up to May, that was funny. I reckon.
And I think opposition...
Because May's been known to go down easy. Didn't he cop one in the pub as well from one of his teammates?
Opposition defenders too, I think, sort of...
You would have been sledging him about that.
They're thinking about it when he's around. They're thinking about it. So, no, he's a fantastic player and we look forward to watching him for a long time. Boys, a simple email today. Things in Fremantle's pocket. Keys, wallet, phone, and the Melbourne Football Club. Wharfy time. That's from Joel.
Nice.
I like that one.
Clever.
They do own them a bit at the moment, don't they?
2 big wins in a row.
Hi, guys. According to AFL figures, since 1997, excluding 2021, the Roos' average home attendance against the WA teams is 17,550. Their average attendance playing away to WA teams is 36,000. We can solve our scheduling dilemma and put a few bucks into the Roos bank account. Cheers, Paul from Kalgoorlie.
Yeah, well, that's
not a bad idea.
Instead of going to Tassie, bring them over here and make more money. Yeah, exactly.
Great idea.
And I think,
great email.
And now that Rita and David Templeman are on board, anything could happen because
so
they'll clear the way for the stadium.
And you know the argument for that? Argue for financially assisted Victorian teams. Don't worry about the pioneering teams up on the Gold Coast and GWS, but the teams in Victoria that are being helped every year financially, the AFL should just go to them and say, until you can stand on your own 2 feet, you'll go where we send you.
Well, that's
what
what
you're
they've
playing an extra game in WA.
I guess that's what they've done to North with Tassie. You go down there, right, and we're set up for a team down there, blah, blah, blah. And so maybe when Tassie's up and running, North come over here and St Kilda will play over here. We're good to see Ross Lyon. You'd love to go to one of his presses and hear some of him wax lyrical. The great man.
I missed last week's because I was too busy just doing the Eagles stuff, but when I was at the game. Hi, Quarters and Barra. We got to be careful with our answer here. My mate Paul and I were watching a Swans game last week and want to know why they call John Longmire horse. Was it something his teammates observed in the change rooms? Barra, what was the best nickname you came across while playing? Thanks. Paul and Glav from Clear Valley. I don't think you need to use too much imagination or we need to explain it, but that's his nickname. I think he's into punting, likes his horses, John. You? Nicknames?
Well, I would just have a
David Hart.
Think about what male horses have that sets them apart.
Yeah.
Stallions.
Yes.
Think of a stallion. Don Holmes is called horse too, for exactly the same reason. Had a knee in it. It was that long. Hey, Jufart, and Jobby. The cricketers are the best though. Afghanistan's the all-time great.
Mark War, the Forgotten War.
Yeah, Mark War. Afghanistan, the Forgotten War. When he was not playing in the Australian team, his brother was, and they called him Afghanistan.
Dennis Silly was Fott. Something old thing. Or
tart.
Yeah,
that's it.
That's
you
it.
Say tart nowadays?
Yeah,
is that a political correctness thing?
That's all right.
You're allowed to eat tarts but not talk about them.
That's right.
Yeah.
High Quarters and Barra, with the VFL hierarchy currently paying lip service to the idea of fairness in fixturing for the WA clubs, I think WA should be able to play them at their own game. Matches between the WA clubs and the smaller Vic clubs, just what we've been talking about, i.e. Saints, Bulldogs, Melbourne North, routinely pull crowds in the 20,000s when played in Melbourne. The same matches draw 40 plus when played here. That was from Juice in Scarborough. Well, we've just spoken about that. It's another good email, so perhaps we found the solution there. Hi, G-Man and Quarters.
G-person because of, political correctness.
Yeah,
Somebody rang me the other day and said, I was on radio with Lisa and Clarsey, because you can't have batsmen, you can't have ruckman anymore, you can't have fieldsman, you have to have
chairman,
fielder, ruck, chair,
batter. Instead of third man.
Yeah, so maybe G-Man.
Watchman.
Maybe G-Man's out as well. So it's G-person.
Hi, G-person and Quarters. How bad do you have to be as a club that no assistant coaches want to become the senior coach at your organisation? That was Mark from Q.
Over to you, mate.
We've spoken about that, actually. Hi, Quarters and Barra. I imagine this scenario. Last week, my wife yelled out the window repeatedly, I am as mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore.
Yes.
I thought I might have to borrow from the Charlie Cameron Good Character hymn book for whatever provoked his chant. I took Quarters' life advice and grabbed a bottle of Sauvignon Blanc and 2 glasses rather than the girl's giggling gas and beckoned her to talk through the issue that prompted I'm as mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. I found out it was an affirmation initiated by Barra. I now want to honour Barra posthumously. That was Andrew. I'm not sure what that was all about.
But posthumously?
Means you're dead.
Yeah, what does he mean by that?
Yeah.
I'm as mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. That one.
It got a lot of airing.
What movie was it?
That was Network.
Yeah. And the actor?
Peter Finch.
Academy Award performance.
Yeah, and posthumously. That's why that
was a good stat you gave me. I used that somewhere. Didn't credit you, but thank you.
There you go. Hi, guys. Love the podcast. Cannot understand the recent outcry from section of the media, including past players, over the state of tackling and its predicted demise from our game. Accuse me of being apathetic to the issue. However, at this point of time in 2024, there have been, according to statistics, 18,500 tackles. From this, there have been 47 rough play charges, which equates to 0.25% of all tackles, and 19% suspensions, 0.1%, have arisen from these tackles. I also recall some of these changes were related to slings. Therefore, the percentage of driving tackles, the culprit, is even less. Do you think that these statistics portray a skill that is in danger of disappearing, or has players so confused that they are hesitant to tackle? Or is it an overreaction to some recent, and I agree, somewhat confusing, high-profile cases? Alternatively, do we need to accept that an extremely small percentage of unlucky tackles will result in a suspension, and it is, in fact, the rigidity of the length of the suspension that is the issue?
No,
Chief, all of the above. But Keith, sorry, that was Keith. But let's change the grading system. Just change the grading system so that they've got flexibility. If it's a dangerous tackle and it's accidental, maybe you get a week.
Yeah, what?
Not 3.
He makes a good point with that number of tackles, but what has driven it is Isaac Heaney not being able to win the Brownlow medal because of a 1 week suspension, which was basically a little
That wasn't
flick.
really a tackle, that was just a flick. But
Yeah. And that's sort of got everyone up in the arms about the MRO. And then the 3 weeks for those two blokes was clearly too much.
It was a very bad week for the AFL last week.
So they needed to sort that out. But the players were the ones saying they were a bit confused about how hard they can go in the tackles. But maybe they could be overcooking.
It's a very good point, though. The same amount of tackles have been laid, but they're much fewer dangerous tackles. You do see a lot of tackles
because they've got
during
rid
a game.
of the sling and they got rid of all those extra tackles. And now they just got to clean up the, why is this 3 weeks? Maybe give us 1 week.
We do complain about it and bang on about it, but there's still plenty to like about the game. It is a great game still. You just watch the highlights at the weekend. It's a really watchable game.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we've got to clean up those little areas. Last one, I'd like to throw my weight behind the AFL's current way of adjudicating players who knock other players out. Put simply, if you suspend blokes for knocking out other players, then they will learn to play the game in a way that doesn't knock players out. These guys are extremely skilled and have excellent coordination. If they can learn to hit targets from 50 metres away, they can learn to tackle someone without causing them concussion. Get over it and move on. That one was from Dylan.
They will adapt. There's no doubt, my friend. You're right, Dylan. They will adapt.
You have been listening to Quarters and Barra. We have been brought to you by Tab Touch. Got the touch? Download the Tab Touch app today. Chances are you're about to lose. For free and confidential support, visit gamblinghelponline.org.au. Thank you, Barra. Thank you for listening. We will be back on Thursday to talk to you again.